Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig McFarlane, and I'm very excited about this one. Everybody who knows me knows I love movies, so I'm very excited to talk with Brenda and Cameron, two people behind the Calgary Underground Film Festival. We got Brenda's the festival director and one of the lead programmers as well with Cameron. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes, thanks for having us, Craig.
So, I mean, first of all, I guess we should talk. You guys were supposed to be on. We were back and forth, and I was all ready to come to the media launch, and then the world decided to go a little cuckoo.
Yeah, we had absolutely every movie booked. I don't know how many people know this, but us programmers for Cuff, with the festival in late April, we start programming as early as November the year before. I'd even say September the year before, because that's kind of when that fall festival season begins. So we'd already been hard at work for about half of a year, had every movie booked, and we were just starting to arrange accommodation for our filmmakers. And then, yeah, pandemic struck, and we had to reassess the situation. And again, in those early days, it felt like we were going to be back in the movie theaters in a month or so.
Yeah. Here we are, like 3 months since it's all started to shut down, and we decided to go online. What was that decision like to go online, and how much did you have to just rewrite the book now?
Well, I mean, I could jump in for a minute on this one. It was funny because we kept thinking going online was actually our last option. So we had all these dates lined up: June, July, August, what November would look like merging with Cuff Docs. And it just seemed like as each passing week, there was just going to be no way to know when we'd actually be able to do an in-person one the way we would want people to experience Cuff. So we made the decision to go online, thinking that if we did it earlier, like June, we'd still beat the summer, everyone camping and being away, and we'd still be able to maximize the most amount of our April program. And I would say, I don't know, I think everything about it, in my opinion, was a little bit harder and more shocking than I had expected going into it. We had to reprogram over half of the lineup.
Wow.
Some of, like, I don't know if you think the same, Cameron, but like a number of the films just weren't available online. Some were going to be released before June. Yep. So it was a combination of release dates, eligibility to even be able to screen it. Some new films.
That's this ticking time clock. You're sitting on all these movies you already have booked, like 24 of them. And then they slowly start coming out on demand or announcing their on-demand date. And you're like, oh my God, they're dropping like flies. But it was challenging. We did have to learn a whole new skill set, and we still are figuring it out on the tech side of things. But in all honesty, the difficulties I've seen other people having adjusting to the new digital climate, I'm really stoked on what we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, me too.
Because we got such a good team that just really wants to put the festival on. Like, this is all extra work for us that we're happy to do just to get these movies seen before they all start coming out on VOD again. And so, and the sad thing is that when some of these movies come out on VOD without having screened at Cuff or festivals of our ilk, people don't know about them, and it's really sad to see. Like, even some movies on premium services like Netflix, people just don't even know about if they don't show at cool festivals like Cuff. Like, there's this beautiful film on Netflix called The Platform right now, and like nobody's talking about it locally in my circle of friends, at least. And it's a movie that needs to be seen. So now I'm just one person like, oh man, you really got to see The Platform on Netflix. But the thing is, when you're watching Netflix, you want to chill out, right? You want to watch something you've seen a million times or something that's going to help put you to sleep, actually. And so The Platform.
The Office and Friends are always
exactly.
Like the top trending things on Netflix because it's just things
like people want something to dick around their phone with when they're watching on Netflix, not The Platform, like this mind-blowing dystopian sci-fi movie that's like super gross and would have been so good with a Cuff crowd, and now everyone's watching it at home for 10 minutes, then falling asleep, or having to attend to dinner or what have you. And so that's what I really like about having all of our specially curated Cuff movies in one tight package for people, because they'll know that those are all movies you're going to want to pay attention to, and you're going to want to not have your phone out for, hopefully. And so to add to that element, we're going to have some live screenings that have a text chat window so people can make in jokes or say hi to each other, because I know it's been over a year since some folks have seen each other at Cuff. But yeah, it was challenging, but the team was so for it once we decided to pull the trigger. And
I'm looking at the lineup last night again on our website and our program guide. Like, I was like, this is great. I'm glad we.
Yeah, like the lineup's not compromised at all. Like, these are all movies we would have shown at the main festival anyway. And the fact that we had to find so many new movies in such a short period of time made it so that we were reaching out to more inexperienced filmmakers. And so we have 8 directorial debuts at Cuff this year. So we're able to show fresher work from people who don't really have the street cred yet. So we can help build them up and hopefully show their future work when they've made something a bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to talk about the movies in just a little bit, because I love this lineup, and I've been to Cuff in the past. But for people so this is the 17th year of Cuff. For those people who, there's a lot of film festivals out there. How would you explain Cuff to people? What makes it unique? What's important about it?
Brenda, I'm drinking water. You got to go.
Well, I mean, I've always described us as like, this festival was built by fans for fans. And we love to stretch our boundaries between like genre film and quirky independent film that just kind of has like some element to it outside of mainstream. So even our dramas or our romantic comedies have some sort of quirk or edge to them. So we have a really broad range of titles, and I don't really think, when I think about underground film festivals around the world, the way I look at them is our lineup is always designed and catered to our Calgary audience and what they may or may not be getting in other film festivals or screening opportunities in Calgary. So ours really, I feel like it suits our programmers' tastes a lot, and it suits our audience's tastes a lot, and it's to encourage, like, we try and really encourage like a fan base and like this vibrancy with our festival, with the audience and our sponsors and within our team. And I personally feel like the success and growth of the festival and the curation each year reflects that.
Yeah, and it's great. And my friend Alana and I are huge movie buffs, and we love going to all kinds of movies. And we love going to the Globe, especially, like, such a great theater. Yeah, we had so much fun seeing some of these films, and we were raving about people specifically because I think some people think the idea of Underground Film Fest is going to be very like low budget films, but it's not. Like, we saw this great one last year, Little Monsters with Lupita Nyong'o and Josh Gad, and it was just such a great film. And it was like a zombie, but it was such a comedy, and it was just so well done. And these are the type of films you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, we always love to bring bangers in like that one, with some recognizable faces and bigger budgets. But the main goal of bringing those ones in is to kind of celebrate the types of movies that that one stems from, in a way, like the independent spirit that led to that movie, and, you know, the outrageousness of it. Stuff like that sets the tone for the rest of the festival for the smaller movies that people haven't heard about yet. So if you start with something like that, people go, all right, I get these sensibilities, right? I like blood, I like a little naughtiness, I like a little cheeky humor. And then you'll go, all right, these people like this movie. They clearly like these other movies here too. Let's see something I wouldn't have seen otherwise, since I'm here anyway, and I like the environment and the curation, hopefully. And that's one of my biggest, that's kind of the thing that makes me feel most proud of programming for Cuff, is the fact that a lot of these movies people haven't heard of before, but are willing to watch them because we said they were worth watching. And there's definitely responsibility on that, but there's also this sense of pride I get from people just blind buying passes, not even knowing a single movie that we're showing, yet drop in over $100 because they trust that it's going to be something that they want to watch. And so yeah, we love starting with the bangers. And the banger this year is Dinner in America, which was at Sundance this year. And Brenda's been fighting so hard for this movie.
I loved it.
So she should really talk about it, but she's fought her ass off to get this as our opening film. And it is all the things that make Cuff movies great, is in Dinner in America. Like sometimes you feel like you shouldn't be watching this movie. Like you kind of feel a little naughty for it. Like you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? What am I watching here? And but then this beautiful romance kind of starts to develop in it, and it's subversive stuff like that really gets me excited in movies, where you get the one thing you think you're getting from the movie. You're like, okay, I'm signing up for Dinner in America. I'm gonna get like this suburban satire, but you don't expect like this great romance, and you also don't expect this angry energy in the first half of it. Like it feels like a totally punk rock movie out of the 90s that would have, like a Greg Araki film or something of that ilk, like that just has no rules. Like it's just like freewheeling and gruesome, but then it starts to get really sweet and quite funny as well. And it's that unpredictability that we try to bring to Cuff, because when you go to the main movies, or when you're going to the main cinema again, when Cineplex and Landmark start to reopen, you're gonna see trailers for movies where the entire movie before you go and watch it. They're gonna cover everything. So when you watch it, you're not surprised one bit. And the thing is, even if you don't watch that trailer straight up, let's be honest, you're probably not going to be that surprised anyway if you've ever seen a bigger budget movie before these days. But with the Cuff movies, some of these movies don't even have trailers to spoil what's about to happen. So going in with that adventurous attitude reaps great rewards when you kind of don't know what to expect. And so that's the flair of Cuff, I think, that a lot of people respond to positively.
Yeah, and Brenda, is it true, like you saw Dinner in America and you were like, we need this, right?
That's how I felt when I saw it, for sure. Like, I know there is definitely like some boundary pushing edge to it, like Cam was describing in the first half, but I don't know, the spirit of it and the tone of it and the quirkiness of the characters and the music tied in, like the punk rock elements. Like it just felt like, we've done some pretty flashy, bigger budget openings the last few years with like more recognizable actors, and this just reminded me, like, it's slick, it's well done, but it reminded me maybe of like 4 or 5 years ago with some of our openings, like when we opened with Frank. Yeah. Reminded me of that year where it's got that, it really fits with our festival, but it doesn't need these like big celebrity names and budget to kind of bring in the audience. I think it'll, like Cam said too, set the tone for the festival and what you're going to get from our curation. So, and it feels like a director that would, a team that it's like great to like push and support their career, and this is a fun film.
And you guys are going to have a Q&A with the director as well, right?
Yeah, and the 2 lead actors.
Yeah, so so this is the opening night film, and this one, unlike a lot of the other ones where you can just watch it all on demand throughout the whole festival, this one, like, you need to watch it that night, right?
Yeah, so we're treating it like the festival. Yeah, so a live experience. So We'll have live DJ and VJ for the doors open online at 6 p.m. We'll have some music and visuals. People could hang out and just chat with each other in the chat room. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll start with the live intro. Director will say hello, and then we'll go in. Everyone will watch the film together, and then we'll have the live Q&A.
That's awesome. I love that you guys are still, because you guys have some unique things, and you guys are still incorporating them, which is great. One of the things that I love that you guys are still doing, because I had so much fun last year, but I got a major bellyache, is the Saturday morning all-you-can-eat cereal cartoons. So you guys are still curating a whole 3-hour block with the old cartoons, PSAs, everything, right?
Yeah, we're having Kayla Janice does that program. She's been doing it for years, and she tours that program of animated shorts, I guess you can call them, television episodes and commercials and what have you. She shows that at about, 6 to 10 places around North America each time she curates one. But the Cuff one's definitely her biggest. Whenever I chat with her about it, well, the 3 times I've talked to her about it, she's always like, I'm amazed how many people still come to the Cuff one, because we sell out both screens for that. Yeah. So that's over 700 people. And the cereal's definitely a draw, but as you said, it gives you a bellyache. And so if you want a marathon through 3 hours of cartoons, I'd recommend waiting till the back end to have your gut busters. But we are encouraging people to have their own cereal at home. Obviously, we can't really get it out to people, but we will have a cereal party once we can hang out in person again.
I mean, it's so much fun, and I want people to check it out, because there were some cartoons that I had known. There were some that I there was Baby God. Well, there was a Godzilla cartoon, and I had heard of it, and I'd never seen it before. And there's the Baby Godzilla, and it's so weird.
Yeah, I love her packs because they are strange, but when you watch them with kids, they're not strange to kids. These were cartoons a lot of us grew up with and didn't think twice about watching. But she finds the ones that when you watch it as an adult, you're like, what is happening in this episode?
Yeah.
And then she'll throw in some commercial from the 50s afterwards. It's a great mixtape. She's really excellent at it. And she's an interesting character herself. She used to run her own film festival and is now a filmmaker and author. She writes for Fangoria Rumor. She has her own website. She publishes books. A real badass, Kayla.
Yeah, well, and you guys, everybody who's involved here loves movies, and I think that showcases, and that's so important. And you guys put in a lot of work, which is great. And so when you guys are done trying to find movies for these festivals, how does your brain work as opposed to just going and watching a film? You have to now watch it to be like, will a bunch of other people like it as well?
Yeah, it's not as tough for me as it is for Brenda, so I'll keep my answer concise. I program Cuff because I love that Cuff exists in Calgary as a weirdo teen growing up here. I guess I would have been late teens when Cuff started, but Calgary doesn't seem like the coolest city. And then the first time I ever showed up to Cuff, I'm like, wait a second, who are all these cool people that also want to watch these weird movies? And then I luckily get to now program for Cuff, but it's the only programming job I have. Brenda programs for the International Film Festival as well. So all year long, Brenda's having to watch movies, deciding if they're good enough to show other people, whereas I only have to do in the winter months. And so the balance works out nicely for me, because in the spring, summer, I like to make movies. I make my own films. Red Letter Day is now on Amazon Prime or Google Play or iTunes if you want to watch it. But I make my own movies the rest of the year, and it's actually really nice for me when winter starts to roll around, because I like to hibernate and I love to watch movies, but I also like to see what other types of movies are being made and are being released and are being picked up by distributors and are being shown at film festivals, because the filmmaker in me wants to stay current. A lot of filmmakers get caught just making the same movie that they grew up wanting to make, whereas with Cuff, I get to constantly be inspired by new movies that are coming out. I'm not totally hung up on nostalgia. I love nostalgia, don't get me wrong, It's a great drug. But I like to see what the new stuff is. And even if it's the new stuff that's not even being distributed, like just what the current trends are in movies and what certain technical tricks are being repeated. But I also just like watching first-time directors actually getting their movie made, because it's an impossible feat to make a feature film. It's
a lot of work.
Easy. It's not easy. So yeah, it's like, it's even inspiring to watch the ones that we're not going to program. I mean, again, I have the luxury of time. I don't have to program all year long like Brenda, because at a certain point you do get kind of tired of having to watch movies so judgmentally. Like sometimes you need to be able to throw on a movie while watching screeners that you don't have to think anything about, like a Billy Madison that you've seen 20 times and has got the good jokes, just to keep your mind off of determining the fate of all of these burgeoning filmmakers. It can be stressful and it can be a little tedious, but I mean, I find it very rewarding. Anyway, that wasn't a short answer. Sorry about that, Brenda. But Brenda does it all year long, and it's fascinating. I talk to her about this all the time, so she'll have a good answer.
I don't know. I do get now that phone is ringing.
Yeah, phone. Is that a pizza delivery?
You talk for a second, Cam, and I'll just pause that one.
I can talk about how I came aboard Cuff.
Yeah, how did you get involved with this? So you mentioned, being a weirdo teen and having to go with that.
I love strange movies. I always have. I like being surprised. And so when I would go to Cuff, or even SIF, because I knew Brenda programmed the late shows at SIF, I would bug Brenda with lists of movies I wanted her to look at. And I think she just agreed that a lot of them lined up with what Cuff liked to program. So I came aboard as a shorts previewer. So you just watch short films, say if you like it or not, and then the programmers decide which ones they're going to watch from there. And I guess I just did a good job.
Yeah, like I actually, that's what I love about our team. Like Cam and Brennan and I do the majority of it. Well, we have a lot of other people to watch content with us. And there's a lot of things we just like, right off the bat, we equally all love, we totally agree it's for the audience. But then there's always titles that each of us individually just seem a little bit extra like passionate about or really want to fight for, because maybe it's not as much Cam's thing or my thing, but Brennan is really like into it, and that could go with any one of us. And we always try to make sure that there's room for a film or two like that somebody on the team is really passionate about to have in the mix. And the more we've started to let to create this mixture of everyone's taste in our lineup, I feel like it's really added to the diversity and the overall curation, because it gives, while there is a lot of like alignment, it also adds a different element of diversity amongst our curation that maybe wouldn't have existed if it was one person or two people always agreeing. So yeah, I really liked how that's evolved, for sure.
And often the films we end up having to fight for the hardest are the ones that people mention a few years later. Because it's tricky making movies, right? You don't want to make something too weird that doesn't feel like a part of the culture at the time, but you want to make something that feels original. And sometimes movies can feel so ahead of their time that when you're first watching them, you might not like them that much. But then when you watch it again, after having stewed on it, or after, life's changed a bit, you have a new appreciation for it. And those are my favorite kind of movies. As when I was growing up watching the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, I would always be excited to see a 50 or 60% movie, because it's like some people really loved it, some people didn't like it, but that means there's something there to discuss and unpack. A lot of movies that are universally beloved, I forget about the moment I finish watching them. I'm like, oh, that was a great treat off to, walk the dog. Whereas some movies, that I might not like at first, will dig in. They'll dig in and I'll obsess about them. There's this movie called Under the Silver Lake. Have you seen it, Craig?
I have not seen that one.
It was the It Follows directors.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I hated it so much the first time I watched it. I wanted to see it so bad. Like, I love It Follows. And then I rewatched it. So that would have been 3 years ago, I think they showed that at SIF. And then I probably would have said, don't program it at Cuff. Don't, like, if we had the option, we probably, like, I mean, I would have lost that battle probably. It's like, it would sell out for sure. But I watched it again 3 months ago. I love this movie now. Like, it's one of my favorite movies of the last 5 years. And so it's the movies that people need to fight for to get programmed that often end up being the ones that stick around, which is what I really love about programming.
Yeah, and it must be like Brenda. You're programming all year. You're watching movies, like, and so how do you get into that frame of mind that all right, this is going to be a movie that potentially has to go to either Cuff or SIF, and as opposed to something that you're going to be able to mess around on your phone?
Well, you know, the pace in which films release now and the strategy for different films to get out into the world has changed so much in the last 5 years that it's just we would never be able to save something for another festival with that in mind. Like, I can't watch something at Sundance and say, well, this could be equally Cuff or SIF. I'm going to save it for SIF, or I'm going to hold it for Cuff, because it really, well, something might suit one festival more than the other in some ways. A lot of films, I don't know how to articulate it. There's like a release window. So some films are only going to be made available to us in the spring. And if we want it for Cuff, we kind of have to jump on it for Cuff.
Right.
And if it's not available because of its release plans for April, then it's either going to work out in the summer for an off the cuff, or it's going to naturally fall to the fall for SIF. There is some titles that for sure would have been better at one festival or the other that I just loved, and it only worked out timing wise for one. And then in hindsight afterwards, I was like, geez, that would have done, like, it's too bad. It would have done better at Cuff than it did at SIF, or vice versa. But that choice wasn't really given to us. But our Cuff audience just gravitates to and embraces these like quirky, unusual titles in a way that is like, you can find them, that we've, found some of these titles and put them in the international, and, they exist, and we sponsor some of them, but they're a little harder to find and navigate your way through a larger lineup. Whereas the way our curation is for Cuff, people, you really can see it all. And yeah, that's what I love about our size in that way. But I don't know, we talk about balance all the time when we're looking at the films. Like, we can start piecing together titles that we are all really passionate about, and then we'll kind of step back and be like, okay, we've got
all horror movies.
Yeah, we've got all horror movies, or wait a second, we don't have like a good, I love, finding a quirky romantic comedy, or we like coming of age titles, or, we need, we don't have enough diversity in directors in their career, female, or like then we start to really look at it like, or something that's maybe a harder sell or a more challenging film. We want to balance with something that's like lighter and brighter, more accessible, so that we really can find a place for anyone in our festival who wants to take part in it. Because we've always wanted it to feel accessible and, something for everyone, even if it is like, the Underground Film Festival. So yeah. I don't know.
Sorry about my cat, guys. He feels neglected. The baby just woke up from a nap.
So we've talked, we're going online, but we are doing something cool. You guys are doing a few movies at drive-in at Big Rock Brewery. So it's 4 nights. One of the movies getting shown twice, but it's Brandon Max of Violence, Uncle Peckerhead, and Synchronic. why were these films selected for a drive-in theater experience, which a lot of people don't get to ever have or experience before?
Well, we could both answer this, Cam, but I mean, there was a few reasons. I mean, I love the idea that we're showing horror movies at a drive-in, even if it's like sci-fi horror or comedy horror. But also, there's a lot of films that aren't willing to go online. And so we wanted to offer the drive-in experience as a kind of the in-cinema experience to showcase a couple titles that we wouldn't have been able to show otherwise. So they'll be shown on DCP. And that would be Random Acts of Violence and Synchronic. And then, Uncle Peckerhead, it just seemed like it'd be a ton of fun to show.
That movie's Cuff. Uncle Peckerhead is a Cuff movie. It was probably made for peanuts. Yet the actors are all great. It's hilarious. It's creative. And it has original songs written for it that are awesome.
Yeah.
Really?
Really good. Like, I hate watching movies that have original songs written from that aren't musicals, obviously. Like where there's a band in a movie and they have original songs written for the band and the songs are not good, but this is supposed to be like a super popular band. Almost Famous, I'm Looking at You. Stillwater would not have been popular. They're not that good. But in Uncle Peckerhead, the band Duh, I think they're called Duh in the band, I would listen to them. Like, they're really quite good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get like these great songs, you get great jokes, you get some naughty antics, and you get some violence. That's kind of the perfect stew for the drive-in for me, or what I think the ideal drive-in experience would be. Because when I was going to the drive-in, it was in the 90s, so it was like there weren't a lot of great horror movies at that time, unfortunately. So I was watching like Virtuosity and Striptease, Twister, but I always wanted to watch horror movies. I was like up there. And so now that we have this huge drive-in screen for Cuff, expect a lot of horror drive-in screenings, because we show, we do these field trips of terror, we call them. There are summer screenings.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll go to a weird location. Not always weird. Sometimes it's Luke's Drug Mart parking lot, or it's the Big Rock, or it's a corn maze or a swimming pool. But we would always show horror movies for those because it's so fun to see a horror movie out in public where you're surrounded by civilized life and you're just watching this debauchery with like-minded heathens eating it up. And so with that combined with a giant drive-in screen that we just bought, I think you're going to find a lot of great Cuff drive-in screenings in the future on top of the ones that we have for the main festival. Because those main festival ones, those are going to sell out. Like, I don't know if anyone tries to buy Noble Pizza in town online, but they sell out in like a minute. These Noble Pizzas, that's what's going to happen with these drive-in tickets. Like, unfortunately, they're going to sell real quick. So just start refreshing your screen, your browser on Monday morning if you really want them. But if you're sad you don't get one, we'll be doing it again and again and again and again. So, if you're sad you didn't get these ones, prove it and support the next ones. Keep showing up.
And speaking of support, I mean, we've really showcased over the past few months the importance of supporting local and supporting organizations like this, because the art and entertainment scene, this is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because I lived in Toronto for a year and I moved back, and the first thing I heard from people was like, oh, it must be so boring to live back in Calgary. I was like, what are you talking about? There's so much to do here. There's so much to see. There's so much, not just music, but like the movie scene. It can be fantastic here and I love it. And so, and supporting the smaller theaters like the Globe. And so I love it. And it's so important because this is the chance for people to see these movies that they wouldn't normally get to see with people they love. I have to mention, everyone's been so excited since Community's been back on Netflix and everybody's watching Community. And I used to go here with Jillian Jacobs, who plays Britta on Community. And I read the synopsis and I already think it's ridiculous and I love it.
It's good. I really like that one.
Yeah.
What are some of the other films that people should really look out for?
Well, we just booked this one, and we were talking about the Q&A earlier. There's a film from Uganda called Crazy World that must be seen. It's a very low budget action film from these indie filmmakers out there, and they've been making these for about 15 years now. There's a movie called Who Killed Captain Alex that has a trailer that went viral. It's very outrageous, bombastic, loud, and inexpensive, but that's part of the charm. Like they're shooting these in their small towns with locals, but they're making these giant 80s action movies. Like they're all inspired by like Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger's film, but often with prop weapons that were made of like cardboard or plastic. I think they've gotten more advanced now. The guns in Crazy World looked quite a bit better, but this world premiered at Midnight Madness in Toronto as a part of TIFF. And they flew most of the cast up from Uganda, and they walk into the Ryerson Theater and see 1,000 people, over 1,000 people there for their movie. And supposedly the screening was quite iconic, according to the Midnight Madness programmer, Peter Koplowski. And speaking of Peter Koplowski, there's a movie that he associate produced called Climate of the Hunter that is the strangest vampire movie you will have seen this year. There's a lot of strange vampire movies, so I can't say of all time, but this one is for fans of Dark Shadows. I don't know if any of your listeners know of the soap opera Dark Shadows.
Yeah,
it is a vampire soap opera, or Penny Dreadful, something like Dark Shadows or Penny Dreadful, a very civilized yet very spooky and somewhat erotic vampire movie called Climate of the Hunter. And this is the 27th or 28th film directed by Mickey Reese, the filmmaker. And he's just been making a feature film a year or a couple a year in, where's he from again, Brenda? Pennsylvania, I think, or Minneapolis. Anyway, definitely not in a bigger town, but he's been making these movies as well for many years with his friends and family, much like now they're seen all over.
Your audio just changed.
Your audio is going weird there.
Oh shoot, I'll log out and log back in.
There it is. That's good.
Okay, Crazy World and Climate of the Hunter I love. And there's this film called Narrowsburg, this documentary that I absolutely adore. And I just did the Q&A with the filmmaker Martha a couple days ago, and she's got some great stories about it. And she's gonna be one to watch. She's working on some really cool new true crime docs that I think people are gonna eat up. But this one's about a mobster that infiltrates a small town. And this is a documentary again. He infiltrates the small town, and he wants to create the Sundance of the East in this new small town of like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
So while he's trying to start this new film festival, he decides to use the town to make a movie of his own that's this really bad gangster movie ripoff. And then all kinds of cons and twists begin to happen from there.
That's awesome. There's another documentary that I'm really excited about, and I don't know why I'd never heard of this guy before, but it's Big Fur, and a taxidermist that's like wanting to prove that Bigfoot's real.
Yeah, by making a Bigfoot recreation. Yeah, that premiered at Slam Dance. So Brendan had the privilege of seeing the world premiere of that and meeting the subject and the filmmaker. And it is wild. And we had no idea this guy was from Alberta when we first started watching it. And then we're like, wait a second. Can he come? Can he come to the screening? So I don't know what the Q&A plans are for that one. I think Brendan's doing that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned, the opening night one, that's the only chance to see it. But then the rest of these movies, other than ones like at the drive-in, you can stream online throughout the days of the film festival, which is June 22nd to the 28th there. And it's $10 per stream, or $8 if you're a member of CUF, or a student or a senior, $35 for 5 film pass, or $119 for an all-access pass. So people have lots of opportunity. I actually like it this year because I feel like I can actually see more movies because I can work around my schedule.
Nice.
Yeah, the only other screening that is limited to the one screening during the week is the Found Footage Festival.
Yeah.
So if people haven't had a chance to see them live before at the festival, they definitely should check it out in this version. So they're piecing together a quarantine classics version for us. So for those who don't know as well, they find old VHS video footage that they've collected with like home movies or like promotional videos, all sorts of things, and they create it as like a thematic montage where they do live comedic commentary over the videos. So it's a fun performance.
Yeah, I'm
You
glad
got
that
any
you
other
guys.
picks, Brenda? I listed 3 picks. I don't think you listed any.
Well, I've talked pretty heavily about some of my picks, like Uncle Peckerhead and Dinner in America are a couple favorites. You named a lot of my favorites too.
Oops.
And that's okay. I just love the lineup. I'm looking forward to how well received potentially $5 at the Door. It's an exciting world premiere for a filmmaker that used to live in Calgary, who's from Thunder Bay, and there's a lot of people from Thunder Bay who live in Calgary as well. And I feel like the reason I love that doc so much is you can really, there's always different styles of docs, and I didn't realize it until we started programming so many documentaries. And I mean, everyone sees it when they start to think about it, but the filmmaker is just so much a part of this film. It's her film, it's her story, it's the bar's story, but you see her passion for music and community and how it's influenced her life, and yet how it's, the bar that she's doing the documentary on, how it's influenced other people. And it just feels like that passion just comes throughout her film. So that's one reason I really like that one in particular too.
Yeah, this is about a small bar in Thunder Bay that the biggest bands wanted to pass through just to have a great party, and just the history of it.
And I feel like we've all kind of been there. Like, it reminded me of if somebody here was telling a story about the Republic or the Night Gallery. So, you're younger, you're trying to get into a bar when you're underage to see the band, or you get in when you are 18, and then what you see at these live music venues really just shapes your future, right? You meet these different people, you get exposed to different music. Same with people who attend our film festival, at different times in their life. And so I liked that one.
Yeah, it's a lovely movie.
Yeah, I think that is one. I was reading up about that one, and I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think that's one. If you're not a huge movie fan, but you're a huge music buff, like, I feel like this is one for you for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of films you're not, the filmmaker is not even part of it, right? And where this one, it's a personal story, so that's nice.
Yeah. And then, of course, I want to mention as well, you guys are doing like a co-presentation with Sled Island of This Film Should Not Exist as well, which is great that you guys have so much partnerships going on with the city.
Yeah,
it was great to work with Sled Island this year. Brenda can talk more about that. Sorry.
No, yeah, we've always had a great relationship with Sled Island, and talk mentorship and talk things out over the year, ideas and whatnot. But yeah, once we moved our dates to overlap with them, with their previous dates, it felt like a really nice opportunity to take that to another level. And they loved the idea, and this film they presented to us, it was a film that they wanted to have at Sled Film, and obviously weren't going to have the opportunity to show it. So they had curated it, they booked it, so we put it in. It's a really nice fit for our festival too.
Great, and it's a great film as well, and people really like the bands in it. I've already had a few nice messages about programming that film as well.
Yeah, it's great. And they've also selected some music videos, 2 music videos to go before that film, and 2 music videos to go before $5 at the Door.
Nice. And you guys normally have a live DJ before showing, so you guys have teamed up with CJSW as well, right? To still have that going this year.
Yes.
CJSW is doing playlists for every movie, and then Adam Camus is doing a live DJ set before the opening night film.
And Chad Saunders is going to do one before found footage.
Ooh.
And Helen Young is going to do one before $5 at the door.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
I
mean,
miss all those people.
and this is what's great is it's an opportunity for this Calgary film loving scene to still see each other and be together. So I'm so excited that this is still happening. Yeah, it's gonna be a little different online, but I'm super excited about it. So many great movies. People can just go to CalgaryUndergroundFilm.com for the whole lineup and a little synopsis of everything. Right? That's simplest way, and buy tickets on there as well.
Yeah, and drive-in tickets are on sale on June 15th.
June 15th. They're going to go fast, so get them as soon as you can.
Yeah. But I just want to mention that we're going to be spending the time leading up to Cuff doing video Q&As with as many of the filmmakers as possible. And they're really ending up being nice, thoughtful, and candid Q&As when you're just doing them from the comfort of your living room. So I'm really excited to do the next 9 of them that I have assigned. Yeah, I mean, I love meeting filmmakers. That's one of the great things of Cuff is bringing someone who wouldn't know Calgary outside of oil and hockey, and having them form bonds with new filmmakers that they meet coming to Cuff, or bonds with us ourselves as the festival. And so luckily we're still able to plant the seeds with a lot of these filmmakers that, hey, Calgary's cool. Our programmers love your movie, and we ask thoughtful questions. So we'll come back with your next one, please.
Well, that's awesome. And so also social media at Calgary Underground Film on Instagram, Calgary Underground Film Festival, and then you can do the events on there and see everything that's going on. So there's lots happening here. We're just a little bit away from this film festival, and I'm super excited about it. I can't thank you guys both enough for being here and chatting with me about Cuff.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So check it out, guys. The 17th edition of the Calgary Underground Film Festival runs June 22nd to June 28th. You can go on CalgaryUndergroundFilm.com for the full festival lineup. Get your tickets, and don't forget June 24th through the 27th will be the drive-in movies at Big Rock Brewery. Thank you guys so much, and we'll chat soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks.